So good afternoon. My name is Kathy Pabst. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Academy of Family Physicians, and welcome to our third A Day in the Life of a Family Physician this year. Today we have Kelly Dougherty, who is a fourth-year medical student at University of Missouri-Columbia, and she is also the student director on the MAFP Board of Directors. So she's been actively involved in family medicine for the last couple years within the MAFP, and she's going to share with you her experience about applying for the match and different strategies to help make your application stand out and her little journey here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kelly, who has a PowerPoint presentation, and you can start sharing your screen now.
All right, thank you so much, Kathy. Let's see if I can get this up. All right, can everybody see this? Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Well, if you all want to, I know it's like weird to turn your cameras on, but it does make it more interactive. And also, please, please, please just stop me at any point you have questions, because I want to be a resource and answer what you guys want to know, not so much just talk about myself this whole time. But kind of just to preface this a little bit, just so you know a little bit more where I was coming from with my journey to family medicine. I only applied to family medicine. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, which was really exciting. And I also was couples matching. So I didn't put anything in my PowerPoint about couples matching because it was very unique to my situation. But that is a beast in and of itself. And if you are a couples match person, I have my contact info at the end. Please reach out to me, because I can't imagine doing this without having talked to someone who also couples matched. So just that caveat. Kind of to get started, if you guys could, I can't see everybody on here, but can you type in the chat like what year people are, just so I kind of know who I'm talking to? And it'll just help me to know how much you guys know. Okay. All right, so I see lots of 3s and some 1s. Okay, perfect. All right, well then let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, just quick note on the preclinical years. The biggest thing I really have to say for like the first year students, like in the Zoom today, is just get involved in something and like be really invested in it. I don't know that it matters a ton what it is. I think it just more matters like what you're doing and why you care about it. When I was talking, in my interviews and getting interviews in the first place, like people just cared that I was out there doing things that I cared about. So like whatever that is for you, I would really recommend it. Obviously, MAFP is a great, great, great place to start. I say that obviously from a biased perspective, but Kathy and Bill and Brittany and the staff and like the physicians I've gotten to work with have been such great mentors for me and really helped me along the way. And I will say too that state and national leadership roles are relatively like low time commitment, I would say, for the amount of notoriety that you get from it. So when you're looking for things to be involved with in your first year and for our preclinical years, the amount of time that you have to spend doing something is really important. So, if it's something you really care about, then it's worth it. But if it's something maybe you're kind of on the fence about, it might not be worth all the time. So just really, your time is precious. So make sure you're choosing wisely what you're doing and really invest it in something you care about. Also, just so you all know, when you go to fill out ERAS, it will ask you like how much time you spent doing like each activity. And it was like, I don't freaking know. Like my life is in shambles. I don't know. I did not keep track of any of this. So I would just try to, like, if you are a planner person, like write in your paper planner every week, like, if you did an FMEG activity, write down how much time you spent doing that. Or if you're an Excel person, that's even better. You'll be super organized when you apply to residency. Just try your best to keep track of around how much time you're spending on these activities per week. And then last big advice is if you have a mentor that you trust or you find someone, just like latch onto them and honestly latch onto as many mentors as you can. I am so lucky MAFP connected me with like Dr. Misty Todd, who's closer to my age, and she had just recently been through been through residency. So she was an awesome person to have as a mentor. And then also like older mentors who maybe are doing the careers that you want to be doing. So like look for mentors at different stages in their careers who are doing things that you want to be doing, and just really latch on to them and just like, I don't know, they'll become your friends through the process and they're just so invaluable. Okay, any preclinical year questions before I move on? Okay. All right, clinical years. So, obviously doing well in your clinicals is going to be incredibly important. Like, do your grades, like really learn from them though. Like invest your time, spend time learning from your patients. But also don't give up those activities that you were doing in your preclinical years. Stay involved in them and just make sure you continue to network, whether that's with physicians, like if you're out in a community setting doing rotations, and maybe you're not on a family med rotation there, but there's a cool family med doc in town, like see if you can get in contact with them, see if you can, contact someone at a residency you might be interested in. Just like get the ball rolling. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Like so many things have happened for me in my life just because I sent an email and said, hey, I'm Kelly, like I'd like to meet you, or like just talk to a random person. So just definitely put those feelers out there. And also in your clinical years, make sure that you're starting to think about letters of recommendation. I, on my family medicine rotation, I think I got one letter of recommendation from someone who I worked with on my like actual family medicine rotation. Having a letter of recommendation from like your advisor or, a department chair at your medical school for family medicine would be another great thing. But one thing I didn't know is how beneficial a letter from a person who's not a family doc can be. So whether that's an OB or a pediatrician or even like an internist or even a surgeon, if you have a really good relationship with a general surgeon, if that person really knows you and knows your skill set and how it would lend to being a great family physician specifically, having someone from another specialty who really knows you can be a good thing in a letter writer. Because it can show, family medicine programs like, hey, this person can work collaboratively with other specialties and learned a skill set, from a specialist. And then it can also just be really, really sure that they are going to write in your letter why you would be a good family physician, not why you would be a good OB or why you'd be a good general surgeon. Make sure they are keeping everything in terms of family medicine. Otherwise, it can kind of look like you might be dual applying to another specialty. But that being said, don't shy away from getting the letters from specialists if you have a good relationship with them. Okay, we have a chat from Emma. What's a polite way to suggest that to them? So if you are getting a letter from a specialist, I would just, I guess it would kind of depend on your relationship with that person. The surgeon I worked with, I adore him and I think I could tell him anything. I think he knows way more about me than he ever wanted to. But I would just be really transparent with them and make sure you send them your CV and send them your personal statement so they can get to know you professionally even more. And then just really emphasize to them, like, I am applying family medicine. And it's really important for family medicine that it doesn't look like I'm dual applying for another specialty. And say, so when you write this letter, if you feel comfortable, would you please emphasize, why I would make a good family physician? And I would just be transparent and let them know that. And I think if you explain why you need them to say that, and it is so that it doesn't look like you're applying to another specialty and that you want to show you can work collaboratively with other specialties, I think I don't think they would be offended by that, but I guess maybe just choose your words wisely, but also just be transparent. Does that help, Emma? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, any other questions for like clinical years before I kind of move on to like beginning of fourth year? Okay. All right, so this is like really where everything starts happening. Fourth year, first piece of advice. I would do a sub-I really early in your fourth year and work your butt off. Learn everything that you can learn from that sub-I, make good relationships no matter where it is, whether that's at your home institution, because that's also going to be important for letters of recommendations, or if it's somewhere else. And when I say work your butt off, I mean like study, know your patients, be an asset to that team, and really step up and maybe do things that you didn't do as a third year, and try to treat it like you're being an intern. I mean, obviously you can't do everything that an intern can do, but just do your very best and people will notice. As far as should you do an away rotation, I'm not as familiar with like the DO application process and like how your guys' rotations are different from mine as an MD student. So I know you have to do aways. If you're an MD student, this is more specific to you than I guess. Whether or not you should do an away is just really dependent on your situation. For me, I was couples matching, so I did apply. I did go through the VSLO process and I applied for some aways to see if my fiance and I could get one in the same location so we could go there and make a good impression together. I didn't end up doing one because we didn't get an away in the same location. But if you have a program that you love and you know that you love them, and you are prepared to go there and, like I said, work your butt off for a month, and you think you can be positive and you can show them like, heck yeah, I'm worth your time, I think in a way is a great way to get your foot in the door at an institution. If you're someone who isn't sure, you don't have many leads to any programs necessarily, I do not think you have to do an away. There are lots of ways to make an impression without doing an away or a visiting sub-I. And if you are not prepared to go there and work your butt off for a whole month, then I would not do it because it can obviously help you, but it can definitely hurt you as well. So, if it's somewhere you absolutely love, do it and go there and give it your all. But if you don't think you can do that for a whole month, or you think your application is competitive enough to, succeed at that program without an away, I don't think it's necessary to do one. But it's a very case by case situation. So feel free to reach out if you have any specific situations. Other things early in fourth year, once again, get your letters on those sub-Is and from your clerkships from third year. Be working on your CV and your personal statement. I would be happy to send you all an example of my CV if you reach out to me after this. In your personal statement, I could spend the whole 30 minutes talking about that. So I'm not going to touch on that a ton, other than be really unique, like have something that gets your readers and shows them that, you stand out in the crowd, and then make sure you're connected to family medicine and talk about why you want to do family medicine. Kathy,
so Kelly, I'm going to jump in just for a minute here. Yeah. So the Missouri Academy of Family Physicians is hosting the Transition to Practice Conference in June, on June 10th. We're going to be discussing those issues and have residency directors talk about what they're looking for in applicants and writing that personal statement and things along those lines. So if you're interested, watch your email. It'll probably be going out within the next week as far as an announcement with the schedule and all of that. So thank you for letting me interrupt.
Absolutely. That's great because those people will be much more knowledgeable about those than me. But then the next big thing for early in your fourth year is at the end of July each year. So whether you're a third year coming up for you now or in the future, go to the AAFP conference for students and residents, whether it's virtual or in person. I think it's supposed to be in person this year. I would 100% go talk to literally any residency that's in a geographic region that you would consider living, because you don't know, you might connect with someone and absolutely fall in love with a program that you never ever thought you would have even applied to, or you didn't even know it existed. So go out there, put your best foot forward, obviously look professional, act professional, and start that networking process. I talked to multiple program directors this year where I interviewed, and they remembered me from the AAFP conference and like remembered what we talked about. Like they take notes. They absolutely remember if you went to that and if they talked to you. So 100% do that. Any questions for like early and fourth year or about the AAFP conference and how to be successful on that? I could also talk for 30 minutes just about how to be successful at AAFP conference. Anybody? Okay. And also just stop me at any point you do have a question. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about ERAS because it is a beast. It will take you forever. But having your CV ready and having those hours that you spent working on things and the dates that you were involved in everything will make this so much faster, and you can just copy and paste it into ERAS. So have your CV up to date and ready to go. Just check it multiple times. If you have a spouse or significant other, make them read it too. You can show it to your advisor. Just as many people as you can get checking over that thing is better. Another question that I always had, you have to go into ERAS, and what it does with your letters of recommendation, it generates a code and it sends it to your advisors or whoever your letter writers are, and it sends it to them in an email. So they go in and upload your letter of recommendation. You don't do anything with their letters of recommendation. Important thing is you want to waive your rights to read that letter. If you do not waive your rights, it looks like, you read the letter and you know what it's going to say. And it's one of those nuanced things that I don't know that anyone ever explicitly told me until I was going through this process. But just so you know, waive your rights to see your letters of recommendation. Okay, next thing is in early September of your fourth year, maybe even before ERAS is due, some programs will be having open houses. For me, they were obviously all virtual, and I think that many programs will continue that virtual option even once COVID is well behind us, because it is a great way to get people interested in your program without having to have them come there. So keep your eyes out in September of the beginning of your fourth year, because programs might have open houses. It's a great chance for you to get your name out there, people see you, and then also you can start getting your question answered. And when I say on here, ask questions, but not too many questions, I mean, definitely be involved, be genuine, be excited to be there. But if you are being overbearing in a meet and greet or an open house, people also notice that. So obviously ask questions and be interested, but don't cut other people off or put other people down. You guys are all good people going into family medicine, so I don't think I probably even need to say that, but I definitely got on some open houses where there was a very dominant personality, and it was always interesting to be part of. So probably don't be that person. Okay. Now we're up to interviews. So do a mock interview. That's pretty standard. But my biggest piece of advice with this is something I actually didn't do, and I really wish I would have. Prior to starting interviews, I did not have a set list of questions that I wanted to ask every single family medicine program that I interviewed at. I asked a lot of the same questions, but I didn't consistently ask every single one to every program. So what I would do is really, really reflect on what's important to you in a residency program before you ever even start interviewing. And then you should have a list of questions that you want to make sure you know the answers to for every single program. And then you should make sure you get the answers to those questions. Like I said, you can have a list of questions that maybe you don't ask to every single program and that are specific to, say Mizzou or UMKC or what insert program, whatever. But you should have general questions for every single program and get that answer. So one thing, my best example for this is I hadn't reflected on how important procedures were to me and how my ability to be able to perform procedures on my own patients and not have to send them to a different resident. But I didn't realize that until I was almost done with my interviews. So I had to like backtrack to all these programs and be like asking them, how does this work? Like, how do I schedule the procedures for my patients? So I wish I would have done more reflecting before I had started interviews so that I could have asked that question to every single program. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that whole situation well, but do people get what I mean when I say like have this list of questions so you can compare programs' answers? Yeah, okay. If it doesn't make sense, just let me know later. Okay. During your interviews, when you do interviews in fourth year, know your CV absolutely inside and out. If you put something on ERAS, you need to be prepared to talk about it. If you did research, like I did, and I honestly had to really figure out what my research meant before my interview. So, make sure you know that inside and out, because people will ask you questions about it. And you need to be able to articulate what it did, what the situation was, why you were doing it, why it was meaningful for you. And with research, like you really need to also be able to explain kind of the ins and outs of your data or what you did on the project. And then also, if you have any red flags on your application, like academic struggles, time away from medical school, whatever your situation might be, you need to be prepared to talk about it and explain what happened and how you grew from it. I think is probably the most important thing. Like that's what they care about. Like how did you move forward and how are you better for this now? And then once again, ask your list of the questions that you want to know the answers to for sure. And it is okay to ask multiple people the same question, because you might get different answers and different perspectives. So, and it definitely helps kill time, because during your interviews, you will get asked a million times, what questions do you have? And you sit there and you're like, shoot, I don't have any more questions. I've already asked you 10 questions. Like I had interviewers who literally did not ask me any single questions. They just asked me what questions I had. That was the only question I got for the whole 30-minute interview or whatever. And so you need to be prepared to walk into an interview and own that situation and have lots of questions for your interviewer. Okay, any questions about interviews before I move on to like kind of like post-interview things? Okay. So after interviews, so obviously this will be a ways away for you guys, but I hopefully you'll remember you get there. I journaled my gut reaction after every interview and just wrote down some things that really stood out from the day, people that I really liked, good things and bad things from each program. I didn't like score it or anything. This was just like my pure gut reaction, because I try to trust my gut. So that was something that was really important to me. Once again, make sure you have the answers to your must-know question list. And then also after your interviews, ask the program coordinator for that program if thank you notes or emails are welcome. Some programs will say, do not contact me unless you have questions. I do not want any form of communication from you unless it's like a genuine question because of match protocol. So if they say no, don't send any emails, just, or don't send any notes. Like if they say no, respect that. If they say don't mail anything, but you can still communicate with us, send an email telling them thank you for interviewing you. And if it's a program you love, I sent handwritten thank you notes to any program that I loved and that did not tell me not to send them. And I sent them to every single person that I interviewed with, and I made it very personalized. So I 110% would recommend that. Program coordinators are awesome, and a lot of times they'll let you send them all of the thank you notes, and then they'll distribute them for you. So being kind and courteous to the program coordinator, it goes a long way. Also, on that note, do not be mean or rude to a program coordinator. That is the fastest way to not get a residency spot somewhere. So that's just another side. And then letters of interest and intent. Also, I could do a whole 30-minute program on this. But your letter of intent is your letter telling your number one program that they are your number one program. And it feels weird to say like, hey, you're my number one. At least I kind of felt a little weird doing that. But tell them, and only send one of those. You only get one letter of intent. You send it to your top program. You can email them, and always put your AAMC ID in that any communication to a program director. But you can also handwrite these. It's more likely to get lost, and you really don't want these to get lost. So I would say email, and then also CC the program coordinator, those nice people who run the residencies. They will make sure the PD or the program director sees it. So put the program director on there and the program coordinator. All right, and then a letter of interest is a letter that you can send to your other top programs, but they aren't your number one. So you need to tell that program how excited you would be to train there, but do not tell more than one program that they are your number one choice, because that is lying, and that is not a good way to start your professional career, because people will figure it out. You know, if you tell someone they are your number one and then they don't match you, they're going to know you lied. And if you ever go back there to try to get a job, they're probably going to be like, well, I don't know about that. So just use words like, I'm really excited to train here. You know, I really have a lot of respect for your program, and I'd be really honored to work with you. And be specific and like why you really like that program. Like, I have my family nearby. I love your rural track or your rural clinic, or, whatever the thing is that you love about that program, express that. But most importantly, like, do not lie. And throughout this whole process, like, just be really respectful of others. And that goes a long, long way. Okay, I only have a few minutes left. Oh yeah, if you interviewed a program and you rank them, you better be prepared to go there. Otherwise, like, you signed a contract. So if you don't love a place, you don't want to live there, if you would rather not match than go there, you should not put them on your rank list, because there's always a possibility. And there's my info. I don't have a ton of time for questions because I talk too much, but what questions do you all have?
Hi, Kelly. I have a question
Yeah.
about letters of recommendation.
Yeah.
So one thing I've been wondering about is, what does the weight of a letter of recommendation carry if it's not written by like a physician? So
Ooh.
like an advisor, or a contact with like a volunteering organization.
Mm-hmm. So my opinion on that would be, if you're applying to family medicine, you need 3 letters from physicians. So whether that be like 2 from family physicians and 1 from somewhere else, but you need probably 3 letters from physicians specifically. That being said, you can upload lots of letters, and some programs will take more than 3. So you have to specifically read what each program wants. That's actually a really good point that I didn't bring up previously. Or read what each program's requirements for applications are. If they say that you can upload more than 3 letters of recommendation, that's a great place for like someone who's not a physician, who maybe knows you in that community service role. But I would lean toward physician letters first. But those bonus letters from like volunteer coordinators or, other people like that can still be really beneficial. But I wouldn't use them as one of your main 3 if you only get 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one more follow-up on that. For letters of recommendation, if I'm asking for someone's recommendation and like they're the program director or involved with a particular program, how does that reflect? Because it would be weird to recommend myself to themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it definitely makes sense, but do not shy away from that, because you're going to be applying to other places as well. So just, I'll be transparent with you guys. I had like 2 of my letters of recommendation one was from the program director at Mizzou, and one was from an associate program director at Mizzou. Obviously they knew me well, and name does matter on letters of recommendation. So a lot of time those PDs are going to have more name recognition than other faculty members. So I would not shy away from it at all. Just make sure you have I like to use the words, could you write me a strong letter of recommendation? Because if they aren't going to strongly recommend you, you probably don't want them. So can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? And then just make sure that you trust that person and that you know them really well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions? I know we probably need to wrap up soon.
Okay, hearing none, I do want to remind you of our next session, which is April 27th, and it's on obstetrics and gynecology. And it's backed by popular demand. Dr. Misty Todd is a rural family physician and performs these services in her clinic. So, and she's from Sedalia and Nicole Camp area. So hopefully, if you haven't signed up, please do that. And we will see you next month on the 27th. And in the interim, let us know if we can help in any way, because that's what we're here for. And thank you so much, Dr. Dougherty, here in a few weeks. So we appreciate your time and you sharing your experience with the other students, medical students. So
Awesome. Thank you all. And seriously, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm so happy to help.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.